It's LAAID.org. If you can donate again, right now the Miles for Migrants program is frozen. It's frozen internally just while they kind of get their act together, but LAAID will have to reapply once that gets going again. And these are asylum seekers, and seeking asylum is legal. For anybody that's in doubt about that, it is. And we can talk to you more about it if you want. But as I said, if you have any to spare, you can donate online, or you can send it to LAAID at it's the Highland Center, 520 Olive Street. Or you can, if you have a check, you can give it to me. You can give it to Susan Yella over here. And also, I just wanted to thank the facilitators of the Alternatives to Violence Project workshop that's been going on this week. That is a wonderful program. I've done it myself and wanted to do it this time, but just scheduling was hard. But I'm so glad for the folks that are taking it, and spread the word. We'd like to do more of those from time to time. And I think that's all I got. Y'all be ready.
I invite you now to let the pew hold you up. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears and take a few not hurried breaths. Let your mind and feet be in the same place. And enjoy the fact that we're not outside or in a place that doesn't have air conditioning.
Traveled long, we traveled far to be right here where we are. Reach out a hand, no need to fear, 'cause all we need is right here. All we need, all we need, all we need is right here. All we need, all we need, all we need is right here. The night was dark, but the day is bright. Together we can lift our eyes to all we love and we hold dear, 'cause all we need is right here. All we need, all we need, all we need is right here. All we need, all we need,
Come into this circle of love and justice. Come into this community where we can dream and believe in those dreams. We believe in intellectual freedom. We believe in justice. We believe in compassion and concern for each other and the whole world. We believe in commitment to those ideals, which make us caring and active in the struggles for human dignity. Come into this holy space where we remember who we are and how we want to live. Come now and let us worship together. Is there anyone who would like to help lead the first part of our chalice lighting? Thank you all.
We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together with mind, hands, and heart, we care for the earth and for each other.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Is it going? I can't tell if it's going.
A little bit.
Okay, there it is. Look out. And then what, you have to throw it over your shoulder if you spill salt? Whether you're from the south, the east, the north, or the west, whether you're born into this faith, found it, or it found you, whether you feel at home or are still trying to find your place, whether you believe in God, are open to the mystery, or still have no idea, whether you're unemployed, underemployed, cobbling things together, overworking, or in school, whether you're holding anxiety, grief, confusion, anger, hope, restlessness, or deep peace. This faith, this movement, this tradition has a place for you, and it's right here. And this chalice is lit for you. Would you rise in body or spirit and say the unison affirmation with us, please? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the sacred. Thus do we covenant with each other. Our hymn is Fire of Commitment. The lyrics will be on the screen. I don't know what the number is. That's it. 1028, if you want to look in the teal hymnals. That's these. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits to a faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger meets our passion and call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. Thank you. Please be seated.
So, a couple of weeks ago, I talked a little bit about Jesus and how Jesus taught. And do you remember what we said about how Jesus taught? How did he teach lessons that he wanted people to know? Stories. He told stories. And so today, Reverend Barbara is talking about not giving up even when it can feel hopeless. And Jesus told his disciples, the 12 guys that kind of followed him around, and probably other people that were there too, he told them one day a story about, it's called the parable, because we already talked about how parables were stories that teach lessons. So this was the parable of the persistent widow. What does persistent mean? Yeah, Ava. Not stopping. Keep going. Nevertheless, she persisted. So it's about keeping going, right? And there was a widow, and you have to understand that in the time of Jesus, widows could have a pretty rough time. It was what we'd call a patriarchal society where the men were really in charge, and sometimes if a woman had lost her husband, she could lose power, she could lose possessions. If she didn't have a brother or an uncle or even a son, to kind of look out for her and take care of her, she could be in a really bad position in that society. And so as it happened, this widow had people that were trying to cheat her, that were trying to take what was rightfully hers, and she went before a judge and asked for justice. She said, "This is rightfully mine. Let me keep what's rightfully mine." And at first the judge said no, because he didn't care. He didn't worry about what people thought. He didn't worry about what God thought. He didn't worry about any of that. And he just kept saying no. But she kept coming back, and she kept coming back, and she kept coming back. And then finally the judge kind of said, "This woman is going to just bother me so much. Or she may come back and attack me, I don't know." And so finally, the judge gave in and he granted her her property. And I tell you this story, and another story about not giving up is about Nelson Mandela. And we remember Nelson Mandela as the president of South Africa from the 90s until he till someone else was elected. But before that, he was in a prison called Robben Island. He was in a cell in this prison for 27 years. Think about that, to be in that one little space for 27 years. But he persisted. He and his wife at the time and other people helped to build a movement. Dignitaries would come and try to visit him, or they built an international movement that kept putting pressure and kept putting pressure, persisting and putting pressure on the South African government until finally Nelson Mandela was freed, and I believe within 2 years, he was elected president. So again, this is not, what can feel more hopeless to be a widow in a society that says you have nothing, you have no power? What can feel more hopeless than to be a prisoner in a society, and they were in a segregated society. They were in a society that was governed by something called apartheid. And so that all changed too, as the people began to realize the political pressure, trade was stopping. I mean, a lot of countries and a lot of people really put pressure on them. They persisted. And so I tell you, when you look at these stories, and we look around, and sometimes things can feel hopeless, whether in our nation or in our personal lives. But we're going to be what? We're going to be persistent. Nevertheless, we persist. I want to thank you for listening, and we're going to send the kids to do some sacred geometry today. It should be kind of fun. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
This reading for the meditation comes from Aaliyah Kimler and begins with a quote from Dennis Levertov. The quote is, "You are given the questions of others as if they were answers to all you ask. Yes, perhaps the gift is your answer. Perhaps this gift is your answer." Kimler says, "In my town, the annual harvest fair is a big event. All the groups in town have booths. The Boy Scouts make root beer. The Women's Club offers homemade pies, and the Rotary gives out hot dogs for a donation for the food pantry. My church sells whoopie pies. You can mix and match your choice of flavors for filling and cake. I know, right? That's in the quote. The dance school and the karate students perform, and there's a band. It's a rite of passage when kids are old enough to walk around by themselves and collect swag and candy. Last year, I sat at our booth next to a sign saying, "The minister is in profound questions answered, 25 cents." I borrowed the idea from Lucy's "The Doctor is in" booth in Peanuts, which is a cartoon. Oh, they're gone. I was gonna, for those who might never have seen it, believe it or not. Some of the questions were from people wanting to know their purpose or the meaning of their life, which is not something you can really answer for someone else. I had to extemporize, saying there may be multiple purposes to our lives, or that we can't know the full meaning of our lives because we don't always know how our lives touch other people. A few people asked me to predict the future in ways that were surprising and tender. They wanted to know if the heart surgery would go okay, or the cancer would return, or their husband would recover from his stroke. I prefaced these answers with the disclosure, in the name of professional honesty, that I am not a psychic, but I also said in every case, I absolutely believe it is going to be fine, more than fine. I can't know this for sure, of course, but what I do know for sure is that hope matters. One of the best things we can do is to hold hope for someone when that person cannot hold it for themselves. Not the careless, casual hope of, I hope things go well for you, but a sturdier hope, a hope which says, I believe in you even though you might not believe in yourself right now. A hope which says, I see you as whole and brave as hell, even though you feel broken or afraid. It is, I realize, an act of great trust to sit down with a local minister and ask a true question, a question of the heart. Because the questions also are our fears, our worries, our deepest longings. I will hold the questions as carefully as I can, like the gifts they are, and offer hope as the only answer I know. God of all who long for answers in this time of fear and uncertainty, help us to hold the questions with tenderness and to offer one another a sturdy, faithful hope. when I was thinking of the title for this morning's message, I thought it came from Anne Sullivan, the woman who worked with Helen Keller and did such unimaginably tremendous work teaching young Helen Keller, who could not see or hear or speak, how to communicate and get along some in her world. But in fact, the title is actually finishing a sentence that was never finished in the movie The Miracle Worker about Anne Sullivan. In that movie, the character Annie Sullivan says, "We all agree the situation is hopeless. The next question is," and then Helen Keller's mother interrupts her and says, "I don't agree that it's hopeless." I thought the line went on to say, "So now what do we do?" Or "What shall we do?" And it doesn't. It was just implied. Because the whole rest of the movie is working out that question that was never asked. Anyway, they had been trying to teach Helen to fold a napkin. The room in which they were working had been turned into an utter shambles. Furniture was turned over, things were broken, food was slung all over the place. But in the end, the napkin had in fact been folded. We can see around us that in so many ways, what we have understood as our house feels like it's in shambles. Whether we're looking at the state or the nation or the educational system, the health system, rights and freedoms, the environment, there are a whole lot of things that feel like they've been turned upside down. The divisions and the dysfunctions can be overwhelming as to obscure the view of what positive steps may have been included in that process. It's hard to notice that the napkin has in fact been folded, or may have in fact been folded, or to even know how significant those bits of progress are in the scheme of things. Aside from the bone-deep pandemic weariness that covered our world and made buoyancy in many instances a good bit harder to come by and harder to sustain, I find that for many, there's a lack of hope. Because we don't want to be unprepared for whatever shoe might fall next. We don't want to be naive or foolish or Pollyanna or ignorant or just not prepared. I'm afraid the energetic cost of the traumas we've undergone have become that we no longer keep our eyes on the horizon, the distant goals, the visions and dreams that have carried us for generations. We're so busy watching the bumps in the sidewalk right where we're walking and trying not to stumble and break our necks, and also trying to be responsible for those that we might be responsible for caring for and making sure they don't fall and break their necks, that we don't have an extra eye to keep on the longer view. And things happen so quickly now that even throwing a glance out there can be potentially hazardous. But I remember the hope of my generation. The peace, love, and justice we worked for and fought for and wrote about and marched for and sang about, talked about, dreamed about, and started to see ever so slowly coming to fruition for 2 or 3 decades. We knew all along that it was not a straight line, that the struggles were often 1 step forward and 2 steps back, or windy roads with twists, turns, and hidden dangers, toils, and snares, even when thousands of people we knew and loved were dying. We kept the faith. Yes, a great deal has changed. Change is constant. Yes, always in some ways, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And yes, some of the changes, some of the things that have changed are things that we could never have imagined. And they have changed in amazing ways and horrifying ways. But how can we possibly afford to let go of the longer view? Keep the faith. Hold on to conviction that is more than just hope, but determination and a knowing somewhere in our soul. I've noticed the cynicism that is palpably present among younger people. Though I can't really speak to the percentages, one thing I saw said 42% of Americans believe that their children will not have it better than their parents. And 75% of young people believe that. There's lots of other data out there. But just for one example, okay? But I asked someone 30 years my junior if they thought their generation was cynical, and the response was absolutely. So I went on to ask if they would mind sharing with me what they thought were the reasons for that cynicism, and they gave me a list. The climate crisis. Many people believe that our planet is dying and that they will live to see the end of it in their lifetime. The housing crisis. Many of them believe they will never be able to buy a house, because they said it is harder to buy a house now than it was during the Great Depression. Many of them are not able to set aside anything for retirement, so they think they're going to be working till they die. And although I don't think they are alone in this, they point out that they are not represented by their legislators. That the same people have been in office for decades and are now making decisions that will not directly impact them because they'll be dead when the impact happens. They are no longer thinking in terms, those representatives are no longer thinking in terms of how things affect generations down the road. They went on to mention stagnation of wages coupled with runaway inflation. And finally, they pointed out that one of the biggest things they've been living through is many once-in-a-lifetime historical events their whole lives. 3 once-in-a-lifetime financial crises, 9/11, the rise of what they said, Christo-fascism, not to mention the weather and climate crisis, Katrina, the pandemic. All their lives, all these things that for us older people have been once-in-a-lifetime things, or even my mother, who is 30 years my senior, once-in-a-lifetime things, maybe twice if you've lived that long. But they've been battered with them. Who can blame them for being anxious about their futures? I, on the other hand, am old enough that I've seen some, certainly not all, of those things ride a pendulum from one extreme to the other, and then at least part of the way back, if not the total undoing. My mother spoke often about what it was like during growing up in the Depression. My father traveled from Mississippi to New York to accept a job flipping hamburgers because there were no jobs where he was, and it was worth the trip to go to New York to flip hamburgers to make enough money to help his 11 siblings. I have relatives who lived in 600 or 700 square foot houses with 6 kids. My dad's family home was a little bit larger than that, but they had 11. We know it's been bad before. We know tyrants have become powerful before, and that the cost of that power was unthinkable. We also know that methods were used to turn those tides that were unthinkable before the crises. I think of the various quotes, variations on a theme, like depression is a luxury we can't afford. Revenge is a luxury we can't afford. Anger is a luxury we can't afford. Hate is a luxury we can't afford. Doubt is a luxury we can't afford. Hopelessness, trust, complacency, all have been called luxuries we can't afford. But the one that stood out for me recently was hopelessness. Hopelessness is not the opposite of hope. It's the opposite of vision. The courage to have confidence in something worthwhile, or to live as though you do. My deep concern is this: if we do not have some sort of faith, if we can't stand ourselves with hope and confidence, how in the world can we expect to pass it on to those who come after us? I wish I could give you my faith, my inner sense of ultimately positive outcomes, but I can't. I do think it is crucial for us to find, individually and collectively, a vision worthy of moving toward, and the heart and conviction to believe in its possibility, potential, and even inevitability. After having been a Jewish prisoner in both Auschwitz and Buchenwald concentration camps, Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel said, "Look, whatever you do in life, remember, think higher and feel deeper. It cannot be bad if you do that." We have the power to lift our thoughts above the chaos, the morass, the scattered vacuums of reason. We can feel things more deserving of feeding that lie underneath our fears and tiredness, cynicism, bitterness, and whatever places we may wade through that are permeated with a poverty of compassion. We have the capacity to practice these higher thoughts and deeper feelings and feel, yes, that we can practice trying to teach what we most need to learn. I am trying to teach what I most need to learn. When I mentioned some of my thoughts about hopelessness insidiously becoming more prevalent than it has been in years before, a wise woman I know who has done much throughout the years to help many people break through and free themselves from depression and other negative internal climates, who just happens to be our volunteer of the month, said, "A lot of hope really is an attitude." If you've lost your faith, if you're finding less light and hope and confidence, generativity, positivity, conviction in your spirit, in your life, if the weariness wins more often than the glimmers, I pray you find some rest and restoration, as well as something to believe in and motivation to again dream bigger dreams. I also really want to encourage you to consider planning to attend the joint retreat that we're having with the Baton Rouge Church in October 20th through the 22nd. Take Elie Wiesel's words to heart. No matter how hopeless it may seem or how many people agree with you or not, our faith calls us to live with confidence in ideals and hopes like those of Lincolns and Kings and Wiesels. This tradition demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choices to believe in that bending towards justice, no matter how long that arc may be. That no act of kindness and compassion is ever wasted. And if we don't, what do we have to offer anybody? This community is built on that faith and love, that awareness that truth is ever unfolding and that every life is important. You are each such precious jewels. Your courage to continue doing the work of justice and compassion is inspiring. My wish is that you may find ways to carry that same conviction all the way to your bones. Know the light that is inside you, beneath the other emotions and above the other thoughts. I long to see that light come back to your eyes when it fades and reflected in the eyes of our young people. It can't be faked. And it may take courage indeed to mine our own depths to reach those veins of gold. But if things are looking even the least bit bleak about us, what else can Unitarian Universalists do? Our closing hymn is from Holly Near, and I'm going to ask the choir to come up. First, before we do the whole song, I want to teach y'all the chorus.
To the caress us, even though they burn our eyes. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who call before us, so lift me up to the light of change. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who come before us, so lift me up to the light of change. Now, I think you might know this one. I hope you'll sing along. What's the song? Where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where all of our siblings, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We have actually a responsive closing. So it's short, but you may want to be seated again so everybody can see the board. As we are confronted by chaos, may we have the wisdom to believe in peace. Surrounded by voices of disagreement, may we have the audacity to speak for peace. Lured by the seduction of despair, may we have the courage to maintain a vision of possibility and peace. I'm reminded of the quote from Brian Andreas, who does such wonderful little drawings. In my dream, the angel shrugged and said, "If we fail this time, it will be a failure of imagination." And then she placed the world gently in the palm of my hand. We got the whole world in our hands. May we carry it with love and peace and confidence in ultimate good. Amen. Blessed be. Ashe, namaste. Go in peace. Namaste. Go in peace. Namaste. Go in peace. Namaste.